I knew something was wrong the moment I saw the footprints. There was only one set. They came up from the basement, crossed the hallway, stopped outside my bedroom door, and never went back down. I searched the entire house, every room, every closet. Every window was locked from the inside. No one was there, but when I went back downstairs, the staircase I'd found that morning was gone. This is Tales of the Dark. The story you're about to hear was shared by someone who returned to his childhood home after his father's death. The names and location have been changed for privacy, but every event has been recreated exactly as it was described. My name is Daniel. I hadn't been back to my childhood home in almost 12 years. After college, I found a job nearly 800 miles away. Life moved on. Phone calls became shorter, visits became less frequent. Eventually, the old house became little more than a memory. Then my father died, a heart attack, quick, unexpected. By the time I arrived for the funeral, relatives had already filled the house. My mother looked exhausted. She barely spoke during those first few days. After everyone left, she stood in the kitchen holding a coffee mug that had long gone cold. "I can't stay here anymore," she quietly said. "I want to sell the house." I understood why. Every room reminded her of him. She asked if I could stay for a week to help clean everything out. I agreed. The house hadn't changed much. The same faded wallpaper, the same wooden staircase, the same grandfather clock that had never kept the correct time. It even smelled the same. Old wood, dust, coffee. For the first 2 days, nothing unusual happened. I boxed old books, sorted family photographs, packed dishes that hadn't been used in years. My father had been the type of man who never threw anything away. The attic alone contained decades of forgotten junk. On the third morning, my mother left to meet a realtor. That gave me the perfect opportunity to clean the basement. I hadn't been down there since I was a teenager. The basement was unfinished. Concrete walls, exposed pipes, metal shelves packed with old paint cans, tools, and cardboard boxes. A single pull chain switched on the light. It flickered twice before staying on. I started moving boxes one by one. Most were full of things nobody needed anymore. Christmas decorations, broken lamps, old tax records. Near the back wall, I found something strange, a massive steel storage shelf. It stretched almost from floor to ceiling. I didn't remember it being there. It was unusually clean compared to everything else. No rust, very little dust, almost as if someone had moved it recently. Curious, I grabbed one side and pulled. It didn't move, it felt bolted down. I walked around it. Something caught my eye, fresh scrape marks. Long silver scratches across the concrete floor. The shelf hadn't always been there. It had been pushed into place. I grabbed a crowbar from my father's workbench, using all my weight. I managed to shift the shelf a few inches. A loud grinding sound echoed through the basement. Another push, then another. Finally, the shelf rolled away from the wall. Behind it was a concrete staircase. I froze. There was no way. I'd grown up in this house. I'd played in this basement hundreds of times. There had never been another staircase. The opening was narrow. Bare concrete steps disappeared into complete darkness. No handrail, no lights, just darkness. For several seconds, I simply stared. Maybe I'd forgotten. Maybe my father had built it years ago. Maybe. I pulled out my phone. No signal. Typical. The basement had always blocked reception. I switched on the flashlight. The beam disappeared down the stairs. The staircase went farther than it should have, farther than the foundation of the house allowed. I counted nearly 20 steps before the light faded into darkness. That wasn't possible. Our house wasn't built on a hill. There wasn't enough depth beneath the foundation. I climbed back upstairs. When my mother returned that afternoon, I asked casually, "When did Dad build the stairs in the basement?" She stopped unpacking groceries. "What stairs?" "The ones behind the shelf." She looked confused. "What shelf?" "The metal one." "Daniel, there isn't a staircase in the basement." I laughed. "There is now." "No, there never has been." I assumed she misunderstood. I led her downstairs. The shelf still stood where I'd moved it. The staircase remained open behind it. I pointed. There, she stared silently, her face slowly lost color. Number, she whispered. Number, she walked closer, touched the concrete wall, then looked directly at me. Your father. Would never have done this, I frowned. So you've never seen it? She slowly shook her head. We bought this house before you were born. The basement has always ended at this wall. She looked genuinely frightened, not surprised, frightened. That night, neither of us mentioned the staircase again. Instead, we ate dinner in complete silence around midnight. I couldn't sleep. The image of those concrete steps kept replaying in my mind. Finally, I grabbed my flashlight and went downstairs alone. The basement felt colder than before. The staircase remained exactly where I'd found it. I stood at the top for almost a minute, listening. Nothing, no dripping water, no pipes, no wind, just silence. I started walking down, one step, then another. The air became noticeably colder. By the 10th step, the basement light above me looked surprisingly far away. By the 20th, I reached the bottom. The room beneath the house wasn't what I expected. It wasn't a cellar or a storage room. It looked finished, smooth concrete floor, fresh white walls, a narrow hallway stretched forward. There wasn't a single cobweb, no dust, no mold, no signs anyone had abandoned it. It looked as though someone had cleaned it that morning. The hallway ended at a single wooden door. Unlike everything else, the door looked old. Dark oak covered in scratches, a brass handle polished by years of use. Someone had opened this door many times. I slowly turned the handle. It wasn't locked. The room beyond looked like a small office. Wooden desk, bookshelf, a filing cabinet, everything perfectly arranged. On the desk sat a framed family photograph. I picked it up. It was a picture of my family, taken when I was about 10 years old. My father stood smiling beside my mother. I stood in front of them wearing my little league uniform, except there was someone else in the photograph, a little girl, about 7 years old, standing beside me, her arm around my shoulder. She looked happy, like she'd always belonged there. I stared at the picture for several long seconds. I had never seen her before. Then I turned the frame over. Written on the back in my father's handwriting were 4 words: "Never let Daniel remember." Daniel turned the photograph over one more time. The handwriting was unmistakable, his father's, "Never let Daniel remember." His hands began shaking. He checked the front of the photograph again. The little girl looked completely natural. She wasn't standing awkwardly in the background. She was part of the family. Her arm rested comfortably around his shoulder. Everyone was smiling. It looked like any ordinary family picture, except Daniel had absolutely no memory of her. He searched the room again. The office was too organized. Someone had clearly spent years maintaining it. The books on the shelves weren't random. Most were about architecture, blueprints, concrete foundations, residential construction. One shelf held nothing but thick binders labeled with years. 1998, 1999, 2000, 2001. Daniel opened the first binder. Inside were dozens of receipts, electrical work, concrete deliveries, soundproof insulation, steel reinforcement. Everything had been delivered to his childhood home's address. None of it matched any renovations he remembered. Then he found a folded blueprint. He spread it across the desk. It showed the entire house: bedrooms, kitchen, garage, basement, but another floor had been drawn beneath the basement. The hallway, the office, several rooms still hidden behind concrete walls. His father had written a single sentence across the margin: "If he remembers, never let him go down alone." Daniel folded the blueprint and hurried upstairs. His mother was asleep on the couch. He gently woke her. "Mom," she opened her eyes. "What happened?" He placed the photograph on the coffee table. Her face instantly turned pale. She didn't speak, she simply stared. "You know who she is?" A long silence followed. Finally, she whispered, "I prayed you'd never find that room." Daniel's heart started pounding. "Who is she?" His mother slowly sat down. "There were 2 of you." Daniel laughed nervously. "No, I would have remembered. You don't, because your father made sure you couldn't." She looked toward the basement door. "We had another child, a daughter, Emily." Daniel felt as if the room tilted beneath him. "That's impossible." Why would I forget an entire sister? His mother covered her face, because after what happened, your father believed forgetting was the only way either of us could survive. Daniel demanded the truth. His mother hesitated, then began speaking. Years earlier, their house had required major foundation repairs. While contractors excavated beneath the basement, they discovered something strange, an unfinished underground structure, older than the house itself. Nobody knew why it existed or who built it. The workers refused to continue after several accidents. One quit immediately. Another claimed he heard children talking beneath the concrete. The company abandoned the project. Daniel's father, being stubborn, finished the work himself. He sealed most of it, but kept one small section. The office, the hallway, the staircase. He never wanted anyone else finding it. Daniel interrupted. What does any of that have to do with Emily? His mother's eyes filled with tears. When she was 8, she disappeared. Daniel frowned. Disappeared where? She looked directly toward the basement. We found her. Down there. Daniel felt every hair on his arms stand up. What happened? His mother's voice broke. She wouldn't tell us. She just kept asking why there were 2 houses. Daniel stared silently. What does that even mean? She kept saying. There was another family living beneath ours. They looked exactly like us, but they weren't. Daniel remembered the blueprint. Several rooms had remained unexplored. What happened after that? His mother slowly answered. Emily stopped sleeping, stopped eating. She kept drawing the same hallway, the same door, the same people. Daniel looked toward the basement again. You thought she imagined it. We hoped she did. His mother stood. Then one night, she vanished. No broken window. No open door, no footprints. The police searched everywhere. They never found her. Daniel whispered, so she died. His mother slowly shook her head. No, your father never believed she died. He believed she never came back. Daniel didn't understand. His mother walked into the hallway and returned carrying an old cardboard box. Inside were dozens of children's drawings. Every picture showed the same thing. Their house, 2 staircases, 2 families, one living above, one below. The final drawing made Daniel stop breathing. Emily had drawn herself holding hands with another little girl, an identical little girl, same face, same clothes, same smile, only one difference. The second girl had completely black eyes. Written underneath in childish handwriting were the words, "She wanted my room." Daniel suddenly remembered something, not a full memory, just a sound, someone laughing beneath the floor when he was little. He'd always assumed it came from the television. Then another memory, a girl teaching him how to ride a bicycle. Another, sharing birthday cake with someone, tiny fragments. Coming back all at once, his mother noticed his expression. Number, she whispered, don't, but it was too late. Daniel remembered a name, Emily. The lights throughout the house suddenly went out. Darkness, complete silence. Then, from somewhere beneath the basement, came a loud metallic sound, a door opening. Daniel grabbed his flashlight. His mother grabbed his arm. Don't go, if your father was right. Whatever stayed down there has been waiting for you to remember. Daniel pulled away. I have to know. He reached the hidden office. The photograph still lay on the desk, except it had changed. Now only 3 people stood in the picture, his mother, his father, Emily. Daniel was gone. He slowly looked up across the room. Another door stood open. He was certain it had been closed before. Beyond it stretched another hallway. Longer, darker, far too large to fit beneath the house. At the far end, someone stepped into view. A man, same height, same face, same clothes. It was Daniel. The other Daniel smiled, then quietly said, I was wondering when you'd come back, and took one step toward him. That was the end of this story. If you've ever experienced something you still can't explain or have a strange story of your own, send it to Tales of the Dark. Your story could become the next nightmare featured on this channel. If you are new here, subscribe to Tales of the Dark, where every story gives you a nightmare.